Bob Fryer here in the AAPEX studio. We want to thank our sponsors, Repairify and Great Water 360 Auto Care. Joined right now by Harrison Chua from the Managing Director at BCG, yes?
Boston Consulting Group.
Boston Consulting Group.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you here, sir. Vehicle connectivity, right?
Yes.
Why should the aftermarket care about that?
Yeah, thanks for that. I would start by saying that the pace of technology is always accelerating.
Yeah,
it took about 25 years
right.
for something as simple as vehicle backup cameras to become prevalent in the marketplace. And just a short time later, for something like CarPlay or Android Auto, it happened in 6 to 7 years. So this will happen very quickly. Of course, it is going to take time for something like connectivity to become a significant portion of the market. However, almost 70% of new vehicles sold today have some type of connectivity already.
Meaning what? Like Bluetooth and things like that? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so the vehicles are connected to the cloud and have a capability to address a lot more features on the vehicle. For example, make updates and that kind of thing. And if we do the math on those types of vehicles in a short amount of time, by 2030, 2032, about half the vehicles in the entire car park will have these type of features. And it's going to be kind of like what the App Store did to smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's going to open a whole new universe to new capabilities, new features and offers that can be implemented on the vehicle.
And what sort of cases, use cases, if you will be the most important?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 that I would start by calling out in particular. The first is ADAS features. The second is fleet services. The third I would call out is insurance, and then the fourth would be something like charging for electric vehicles. These in particular have already demonstrated strong, substantial market sizes, as well as accretive contribution to profits for the companies that provide these services. Of course, there's a much longer list of other services as well, and they include services that fall into categories such as diagnostics and over-the-air updates, and things like operations optimization as well as maintenance management.
That is a long list. Which of those do you think would be the most important to the aftermarket industry?
It's the handful I mentioned up front, the ones that, in our view, we've already seen substantial market size as well as contribution to profit pools. We believe that the companies that work on those are going to be most immediately impacted, but of course, the technology is still developing, and then the longer list will be relevant over time as well.
And who wins and who loses in all of this?
Yeah, so if we take a step back and think about the aftermarket value chain, fundamentally what connectivity does, it is establish a direct linkage from players all along the value chain to the end customer. So if I think about OEMs and suppliers and distributors in particular, the companies in those buckets that are able to leverage connectivity to engage end customers directly are going to stand to profit. On the flip side, if I think about dealerships or independent service centers, for example, the companies in those segments that don't adapt to new paradigms may stand to lose substantial portions of profit pools.
You just led right into my next question. What do firms have to do to get themselves prepared? Has the wave already passed them by, or do they still have time?
Of course not. There's still time, but it's important to invest up front. So if I think about what it takes to play in a lot of these new offerings, it's things like software development, it's things like digital product management, it's things like electronics engineering. These are capabilities that many aftermarket companies have not built up over time traditionally. And so it takes years, if not decades, to build a lot of these capabilities from scratch. And I would say the companies that have a long-term strategy that supports investing in these areas, as well as have probably already started making these investments, are the only ones positioned to succeed. And just to add some numbers to the discussion, just to quantify some of this, I think if we look at a vehicle in the car park today, the average vehicle would contribute something on the order of about $1,250 to aftermarket overall in revenue. And if we take a EBIT or profit pool into it, it's about $380 in profit to all the aftermarket players along the value chain that I mentioned. We believe that if we look at vehicle connectivity and how it impacts that, the revenues will actually decrease over time and the profit pools will increase. That's because if we look at the revenue standpoint, one of the biggest drivers that's going to drive consumer adoption of a lot of these new offers is going to be savings for vehicle repairs and maintenance. And by definition, if consumers spend less, then of course that's less dollars going into the aftermarket. However, in order to pay for all of this, firms will have to find ways to get to much higher profit margins, and that's the only way they can pay back the very substantial investments that are needed in order to provide all of these new features and services.
Gotcha.
So a lot to navigate going forward, but very exciting for companies as well as consumers.
All right, Harrison, good to talk to you, my friend.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Make sure when you're out and about at AAPEX 23 that you're taking those photos and those videos and all that you're doing. Go down to Joe's Garage, watch the good folks down there, our sponsors, and make sure you take those pictures and post them to your social media site, whichever one you favor. And I'm Bob Fryer right here in the AAPEX studio.
Wow.